Part 39. The Prophet's marriage to Sauda. After the death of Khadijah, the Prophet was caring for 3 daughters and was in need of remarrying. One day Hawla bint Hakim visited the Prophet and said,
"O Messenger of Allah, you appear to be withdrawn, due to grieving the death of Khadijah."
The Prophet replied, "Yes, she was the mother of my children and the caretaker of my house." After testing the waters, Hawla asked,
"Should I then not make a proposal?"
The Prophet asked who she had in mind, and she said,
"If you want an unmarried lady, then Aisha is ideal, and if you want a widowed lady, then Sauda is ideal."
Aisha was too young at this stage, and so the Prophet gave Hawla permission to approach Sauda and gauge her interest. She approved, as did her father, and the Prophet wed Sauda bint Zam'a. The Prophet's marriage to Aisha. The Prophet's marriage to Aisha is one of 2 marriages commanded by Allah. Aisha narrated that he said,
"I saw you in a dream twice. Someone was carrying you in a silk cloth and said, 'This will be your wife.' When I lifted the cloth, I saw you. I said to myself, 'If this is from Allah, it will come to pass.'"
The dreams of prophets are revelation, and the Prophet seeing Aisha as his bride was a command from Allah. The Prophet saw the dream after the death of Khadijah, but did not immediately act upon it, knowing that it will be decreed in time. When Hawla bint Hakim visited the Prophet and suggested both Sauda and Aisha, she first approached Sauda and her family. Later, she also approached Abu Bakr al-Siddiq and Ruman, Aisha's parents. They rejoiced at the news, but Abu Bakr was initially confused. The Prophet would always refer to Abu Bakr as his brother, and Abu Bakr understood that the rules of kinship would apply to him. The Prophet explained that they were brothers in Islam, and Abu Bakr was pleased to offer his daughter in marriage. They presented the marriage contract but did not consummate the marriage for another 3 years. In recent times there have been sensitivities regarding Aisha's age of marriage. She was 6 years of age at the time of the marriage contract, nikah, and 9 at the age of consummation. Detractors have leveled criticisms against the Prophet for marrying a child. However, these criticisms are underpinned by a postmodern notion of childhood and adulthood. In 7th century Arabia, and throughout most of human history, adulthood was understood as the age of puberty. The fact that the Prophet waited 3 years to consummate the marriage clearly shows that Aisha reached the age of physical maturity. As for emotional maturity and intelligence, then that differs between each society and era. This is evidenced by the fact that the age of consent varies considerably between countries throughout the world. In Islam, the age of puberty is designated as the age of intelligence and responsibility. The Prophet's enemies seized with alacrity any opportunity to besmirch his reputation, yet they did not recall his marriage to Aisha in their list of criticisms. It was understood as a norm, so much so that Hawla bint Hakim was the one to suggest Aisha as a potential bride before the Prophet even married Sauda. Moreover, Aisha was already engaged to Mut'im ibn Adi, which was later called off. In late antiquity, the average lifespan was half that of the 21st century. Naturally, therefore, the ages of marriage, childbirth, and labor were all earlier than the modern era. This was the case across cultures such as the Queen of England, Isabel of France, marrying Richard II at the age of 7. This occurred in 1396, over 700 years after the time of the Prophet. There have since been attempts to employ a revisionist interpretation that Aisha was 18 years old at the age of marriage, the age of consent in some Western countries. The year of marriage is indirectly deduced based on other hadiths, such as the age of her sister, Asma. However, it is recorded in both Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, the 2 most authentic books of hadith, that Aisha herself states that the Prophet married her when she was 6, began living with her at the age of 9, and passed away when she was 18 years old. Bukhari, Sahih al-Bukhari, page 1309. The evidence is clear and explicit, but as demonstrated before, the subject is only sensitive if modern culture and understandings of adulthood are superimposed onto historical events over 1,400 years ago.